वेलकम एवरीवन टू द सेकेंड एपिसोड ऑफ शेयर समाधान के साथ सारे समाधान, a digital initiative for investor education. Friends, we all invest, but we also forget. A lot of investments in the country is still unclaimed. So as an initiative, today we have taken a topic which is called IEPF, which is largely unheard by majority population, investor population in the country. So before introducing today's guest, Mr. CS Shrey Ghosal, I would like to start with this.
फिजिकल शेयरों का समाधान,
IEPF समाधान,
प्रोविडेंट फंड समाधान,
इंश्योरेंस समाधान,
डेटर समाधान,
प्रॉपर्टी समाधान
या फंसे पैसों का समाधान,
चाहिए सारे समाधान
तो है शेयर समाधान.
So welcome Shrey to this show of investor education awareness. Shrey is a company secretary, a young company secretary, possesses hands-on experience on investor education and protection fund related cases. Shrey has been with Team Share Samadhan since quite a good number of years. Welcome Shrey to this show called IEPF.
Thank you, Vikas, and this is indeed a good opportunity for me also to share my views and experience.
Yeah. So
on the IPF.
Yeah. So let's start with various questions which has come across various parts of the country. We have compiled as a team, and it will be an interactive session. We will keep on posing the query which has come across to us. And the first query, which if you can just elaborate, what is IEPF?
Yes, so IPF stands for Investor Education and Protection Fund. So it's an authority set up by Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Government of India, which helps people into claiming the unclaimed investment which is lying with it, which has been unclaimed for over so many years.
Okay, great, Shrey. So my next question is, why did this regulation came?
See, the purpose behind this was the government to protect the investors, especially the fragile investors who are prone to the manipulations and fraud of various unscrupulous elements. Like there were some registrars who did a lot of fraud into physical shares and investments which are unclaimed. So then government said that let this be a repository whereby all the investments will be in the temporary custody of government, and then genuine investors can come and claim this.
Yeah, so recently we must have heard the fiasco of Share Pro.
Yeah, this was one of the registrar and which did the fraud, and which was one of the major reason why this kind of regulation came.
Yeah. So if I need to just to summarize, why did this regulation came, Shrey? Because it's a good that Government of India is acting as a trusteeship rather than leaving everything to the RTA to avoid those fraud as well.
Definitely.
My next query which came, how do we get back the shares from IEPF?
See, it's a lengthy process because a lot of parties are involved, starting from registrar and then company and then IPF authority. So if an investor wants to get the shares back from IPF, first he has to approach the registrar. He has to prove his ownership of the shares, and on the basis of the fulfillment of their conditions, the registrar will give the entitlement that you are able to now claim the shares from the IPF, and then you need to get the verifications from the company as well. They will verify your claim, and then you need to file the claim with the Investor Education and Protection Fund. So after IPF verifies your claim, scrutinizes your documents, and if it finds that yeah, all the documents submitted by you and claim is genuine, then they will verify your claim and you get your investment back.
Right. So from an investor's perspective, Srey, a shareholder has to interact with 3 or 4 entities. It's a company, company secretary, RTA, and then eventually the IEPF, which is
IPF authority.
corporate affairs.
Definitely.
So how do one file an IEPF claim?
See, filing an IPF claim is an online process whereby you can go on the website of ministry and fill in the information. But see, before that, you have also have the prerequisite that before filing the claim, you need to approach the company. You need to verify your documents from the company as well as the registrar. And once you get the entitlement from them, then only you will be able to file the claim with IPF. So then you will have to, after you get the entitlement from the registrar, you need to file an IPF 5 form, which is an online web form on the ministry portal. And then once you file the form, you need to submit those forms along with the attachments like indemnity, affidavit, police report, and other documents to the nodal officer of the company, who is the company secretary normally. And once it is submitted to company secretary, nodal officer, and then they verify the documents and forward it to IPF authority.
Okay, so fair, Shrey, is it fair to say that the process to claim investment from IEPF is completely online, or is it's a combination of online and offline process?
No, I would rather say it's a combination of online and offline. IPF authority correctly says that it's a completely online process because from their perspective, the filing of claim is completely online. But as I said earlier, before filing the claim, you have to complete the formality with the registrar and company. So that's a completely online offline process whereby all the documentation goes into physical form. So after you complete the process with the company and registrar, then definitely it will be an online process and everything goes into through a web portal only, and the claim is settled online only.
Okay.
So it'll be a combination of both.
Great. So for investors' education's perspective, Shrey, if you can just elaborate on the fact that what all various kinds of investment which goes to IEPF.
See, as per Companies Act, Section 124 and Section 125 of the Companies Act regulates this, that what will be transferred to IPF. So as per this, the majority amount is the unclaimed in dividend of the shares, then preference shares, matured deposit, matured debentures, the money which is remaining unclaimed from application money, which is due for refund, or even the fractional amount which is due on the bonus shares or right shares. And apart from that, government also puts in money in the form of donation and grants. So
Okay,
these all
great.
form part of the kitty of the IPF.
So, Shrey, recently we have come across media that government has taken an initiative where money which remains unclaimed in bank account or insurance or PF, if it remained unclaimed, including insurance, if it remained unclaimed for a certain period, it goes to senior citizen welfare fund, and from there, if investor or their family do not claim it for 10 to 15 years, eventually one will not be able to claim. So my question is that does this kind of restriction of withdrawing investment which has gone to IEPF, is there any timeline to retrieve your investment from IEPF also?
As such, currently there is no restriction talking specifically about the IPF claim. So if the investment has been transferred to IPF, an investor can very well claim it as and when they want. But if as you said that for other instruments like insurance, for FDs, for corporate FDs, there has been government has formulated senior citizen education awareness fund, and for there is a timeline of 15, around 10-15 years. So government might come, not at currently it's not there is any timeline, but in future government might come with certain timeline with IPF also. So I would strongly suggest that you should not delay any further. If you know that your shares have been transferred to IPF, sooner you should apply for it, and you should claim it, because as the time pass by, government might change the regulation as well.
So caveat to investor that still better late than never. Should actually see if they have any kind of investment which has gone to IPF for themselves or their ancestral investments. One should not wait further. They should try and see if they can recover it from IPF as soon as possible. Fair. So next query, Shrey, which has come, is there any time limit? So is there any time limit to claim, or what is the timeline? One can set, or is there a definite timeline which the government of India has given it to companies or RTA to process the IPF claim related issues?
This is really, something where I would say that there's no definite timeline for IPF claim. Now, earlier there was totally no timeline either for company or IPF authority, but recently government has amended the rules, and they have put a timeline of 60 days for the company, that once an investor files the claim, the company needs to verify it and submit to IPF authority within 60 days of the claim. But surprisingly, government has not put any timeline for its own department. So for companies and registrars, they have to be done into 60 days. But for IPF authority, there is no timeline as such. They can process at their own will. So that's why practically it is being delayed. But obviously, with the limited infrastructure, they are also looking to speed up. So maybe in the near future, the situation would improve and they would start processing the claim faster. But
So
as
you
such,
mean,
yeah.
So you mean to say that if that 60 days timeline lapses, so what happens?
Yes. So if that timeline lapses, then a company has to pay a fine, which is maximum up to rupees 2,000 rupees, which a company needs to pay per investor if it delays the claim. So and then it is also reported in the annual report. So obviously, a company would like to avoid that to be reported in the annual report as well as to pay fine. So now companies normally do not delay in this process.
Okay, fair. So we got one query from one of the investor. My shares gone to IPF, but original shares are with me. How did this happen?
Yeah, this might very well happen. People have notion, that if I am holding my physical shares with me, then nothing can, stop me for having, the ownership of these shares. But this entire concept of IPF is only set on the dividend. So if you do not claim dividend for 7 years, though you might be holding shares, the shares would be, the ownership of the shares would be transferred to Government of India. So your shares would practically be cancelled and transferred to government. So yes, it is possible that you might be having the shares in your possession, but still, if you go for the Dmat of these shares, or if you go to claim the share, the depository would say that these have already been transferred to IPF.
Okay. So one should not be under false impression that if they are holding shares and not depositing dividend, so
Yes.
they may be holding those shares physically, but for all practical purpose, the ownership has already been transferred to Government of India, which can claim by following the process of IPF claim. Fair. So, Shrey, there is another question. Who is the contact point for resolving issues of IPF? So, if you can just elaborate from company's point of view, whom a shareholder should approach, and at IPF authority, and if there is certain query to be resolved by shareholder, where would they approach at IPF and also?
See, as I said, this IPF claim is goes into the stages. First is you need to deal with the registrar and then company and then comes the IPF authority. So at registrar, very well you can contact on the email ID and contact numbers of the registrar, and then comes the company. So for company, specifically, government has designated that there has to be a nodal officer in every company, which would be looking after the IPF claim, and he has to put his contact number and mail ID on its website. So for every company, you can find their details. And in terms of IPF also, they have given their toll-free numbers and mail IDs, whereby you can contact them and resolve your queries.
Fair. So, Shrey, what is the current magnitude of shares which has gone into IPF? Because, as per media report, in our country, close to 3-4 lakh crore worth of physical shares are there. But out of those magnitude, what is the value of shares which has already gone to IPF?
See, as it's a dynamic figure because it is a criteria of 7 years that every time a company's dividends complete the 7 years of being unclaimed, it is transferred to IPF. So the figure keeps on changing, but yeah, as per the latest update given by the department, it was close to around 25,000 crore of worth of shares, which has been transferred to IPF. And but this will keep on growing. As you said that 3 to 4 lakh crores of shares are still in this roughly figure which is unclaimed. So this figure will keep on growing with that as the time passes and as that 7 years criteria is reached.
Great. So we have another question. My shares were in Dmat account and still transferred to IEPF. How is it possible?
Yeah, this is one of the biggest. As we said that now we are moving to electronic world and we need to get all your investment into electronic form. So at least people who have shares in Dmat account, they are very assured that if shares are in Dmat account, then I need not worry about those. But as I said, it's the IPF process is entirely linked to your dividend claim. Now, how would dividend remain unclaimed in a Dmat account? There's only one reason, that there's a bank account linked with Dmat account always. So if your bank account, which is linked with Dmat, is not, active, or it has been suspended due to KYC reasons, or due to any reason, if it is not into, active condition, so the dividends would not be credited into that bank account. And by that reason, if your dividends remain unclaimed, that shares will be also automatically debited once the 7 years dividends are remaining unclaimed. So even from Dmat also this can be debited. So we need to very careful that whatever bank details we have been linking with the Dmat, it has to be into up and running condition.
So lesson to be learned for investors that one should ensure that their linked bank account should be active, and that should not just close the bank account, because sometimes people keep on changing their city from one city to another city, and they sometimes abruptly close the bank account. So that might be the reason why the dividend is not being created, and eventually, in spite of the shares being in Dmat account, it goes to IPF account. So we have another question. I don't have original shares with me. How do I file IEPF?
See, then there's an additional layer of procedure added to that, because if you do not have the original shares, first you need to approach the registrar of the company. You need to fulfill the entire formality for the duplicate issue of shares. Like you'll have to file a police complaint. You have to give the surety. You'll have to give advertisement. So the entire process of duplicate process will have to be done, and then only company will give you the entitlement that yeah, you are eligible to file the claim with the ministry. So if you don't have the physical shares, your another 3 to 4 months or would be added in the timeline also, because that company would take additional time to issue the duplicate. But yeah, here you will not get the physical shares because now with the IPF coming in, the shareholders are never issued the shares in physical form.
So we have another question. the shares were in the name of my deceased father. Can I claim that from IEPF?
Yeah, definitely you can claim, but since the shares are not in your name, you'll have to first claim your legal heirship or ownership to the company. And for that, there are various criteria, because if the value of shares is below the threshold limit of 2 lakh rupees, then the limited documents has to be given to the registrar to file your claim. If the value is above the 2 lakh rupees, then you also have to get a certificate from the court proving your legal heirship. So once you get the legal document, and then you need to approach to the company that I am the legal heir, and one has to get the legal heirship in his favor and entitlement in his favor. So based on that document only, he'll be able to file the claim with IPF as a legal heir.
Great. So we have another question. I am an NRI, foreign citizen, and shares were purchased when I was resident Indian. Can I file IEPF claim while I am an NRI?
Definitely, an NRI or foreign citizen can file an claim, but easier said than done, because as I said earlier, the file process of filing the claim is online. So NRI can very well fill the form and file it online, but the follow-up work and prerequisite work of dealing with the company, RTA, registrar, that is entirely a physical and paperwork. So it becomes practically difficult for an NRI or foreign citizen to be in abroad and then dealing with the authorities, doing all the groundwork, paperwork. So I'd suggest in some such cases, the investor who is a foreign citizen should appoint an power of attorney holder to somebody, his close relative, or maybe to some professional who can take care of the paperwork here, and then definitely the IPF claim can be taken care by the professional or to whomsoever is given the power of attorney. So this would streamline the process, and it would smoother to claim rather than foreign citizen being in abroad and filing the claim from there.
So we have another question, which probably you have answered this. Do NRI need to visit India to claim investment from IEPF?
Theoretically, no, but practically, yeah, he will be required, because as I said earlier, that before filing the IPF claim, he'll have to do a lot of paperwork and groundwork, for which he'll definitely have to be present here. So, if it's not possible to visit India for just specifically for this work, it's better to appoint somebody in India as a power of attorney holder who can take care of this process, so that he is not required to, because it's not a a 1 or 2 day process that he'll visit and he'll complete the process. It takes months and months. So it's better to appoint somebody rather than filing on his own.
Okay. So we have another question from Ashish. What if we filed SRN available and no communication from IEPF, which is his investor's concern? But in this scenario, what a shareholder can do?
See, in that case, if you have already filed an IPF claim and you already have an SRN, now you need to see that at which stage your claim is, because as I said, it is at various stages. Whether because after filing the claim, you also need to submit the documents to company. So whether the company has verified your claim or not, or whether it has been moved from company to IPF authority. So first you need to communicate to the company that what is the stage of your claim, whether it is lying with registrar or company, or it has been transferred to IPF, and accordingly you need to approach the concerned authority for getting the status.
So for IEPF, do they also allow Shrey to personally visit? If yes, so where do they have to visit in India?
Yeah, there's only one centralized office in of IPF in Delhi, where claims from across the country is being filed. If you want to visit personally, then you only have to come to Delhi and visit their office, which you can very well do, and meet their PRO officer. They will give you the status and apprise you of your claim. but they also have toll-free numbers and mails. So if you are in another part of India, so you can very well mail them or call them, and they get the response.
So we have another question from Ashish only. IPF saying send for resubmission. What is the meaning of that?
Yeah, that means that, as I said, that 60 days criteria is there. That if you file the claim, it has to be verified by the company, and all the discrepancies has to be removed within that timeline. So now, if your file claim still those discrepancy has not been removed, or if the company have not filed that their verification report within that 60 days, the IPF authority will put it for the resubmission. So if that timeline is not met, so then your original claim again has to be resubmitted on the IPF website, and then only it will be considered as a valid claim.
Fair. So we have got good number of query, and thank you so much, Shrey, for enlightening on the various aspect of IEPF. And for investors at large, we will continue to have this kind of session. And if any one of the investors, if they have any query, they can very much write to us at samadhan@samadhan.com. We will be happy to answer any of your query, and we'll continue to have this kind of show in future also as a part of purely investor education perspective. So thank you so much, Shrey, for your
Thank
time.
you. It was
And
really a pleasure.
yeah, we would just like to tell to investors at large that you have invested your hard-earned money. So while you invest, it is equally important that you protect those investment also, so that in case of any contingency, it becomes easy for the family to retrieve those investments. Thank you so much. शेयर समाधान के साथ सारे समाधान logging off, विकास जैन. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.